The mop slipped from his hands when the commander froze at the ribbon on his chest. The industrial cleaning cart squeaked its way through the polished corridors of Naval Special Warfare Group 2's headquarters at Naval Amphibious Base Little Creek, pushed by hands that had grown calloused not from combat operations, but from years of gripping mops, brooms, and the kind of menial tools that marked a man as invisible in a world built for warriors. Jimmy Rodriguez moved through his janitorial duties with the methodical precision of someone who understood that in elite military facilities, maintenance personnel existed in a shadow world, necessary but unnoticed, essential but ignored, present but fundamentally separate from the operators whose legendary exploits filled these hallways with whispered stories of impossible missions and unbreakable men. Before we delve into this incredible story, tell us in the comments which country you're watching from today. And if you believe that heroes often hide in the most unexpected places, hit that subscribe button to support our channel. We're honored to share these remarkable stories with you. For 18 months, Jimmy had been the night shift custodian who cleaned the spaces where America's most elite warriors planned missions that would never appear in history books, mopped floors that had been walked by operators whose names were classified at levels exceeding most government officials' clearance, and emptied trash cans that contained fragments of strategic documents too sensitive for normal disposal procedures. The SEAL teams, instructors, and support staff who encountered him during his rounds saw exactly what they expected to see. A middle-aged Hispanic man whose stooped shoulders and weathered hands told the story of a life spent in service positions, whose quiet demeanor and averted gaze marked him as someone who understood his place in the hierarchy that separated warriors from those who cleaned up after them. What none of them knew, what Jimmy's deliberately humble appearance and carefully practiced invisibility had concealed for over a year, was that the man they dismissed as just the janitor carried beneath his civilian work clothes a piece of fabric and metal that represented the highest recognition a nation could bestow upon someone who had faced death and chosen honor, who had stood in the crucible of impossible circumstances and emerged as living proof that heroism transcended rank, assignment, and the preconceptions that allowed truly extraordinary men to hide in plain sight among those who believed they alone understood the meaning of sacrifice and valor. The midnight shift at SEAL headquarters was Jimmy's domain, a world of fluorescent-lit corridors and empty offices where he performed his duties in solitude, maintaining the spaces where operations were planned that would save American lives and eliminate threats to national security. His routine had been perfected through months of careful observation and systematic efficiency, cleaning the briefing rooms where classified information was discussed, sanitizing the training areas where operators prepared for missions that challenged human limitations, and maintaining the administrative spaces where support personnel coordinated logistics that enabled America's most elite units to function at maximum effectiveness. Jimmy had learned to move through these spaces without drawing attention, understanding that custodial personnel who worked in classified facilities were expected to be functionally invisible, present when needed, absent when inconvenient, and always professional enough to maintain the security protocols that protected national secrets and operational integrity. His security clearance was sufficient for his duties, but limited enough to ensure that he remained safely categorized as support personnel rather than someone who might have access to information that could compromise ongoing operations or future missions. The systematic invisibility that characterized Jimmy's existence extended beyond his professional duties to encompass every aspect of his interaction with the facility's military personnel. SEAL operators who encountered him during late-night training sessions acknowledged his presence with nods that conveyed professional courtesy without personal interest. Instructors who worked extended hours offered polite greetings that maintained appropriate boundaries between warriors and civilian. Support staff. Administrative personnel who occasionally worked night shifts treated him with the kind of respectful distance that characterized military interactions with contracted civilians whose functions were necessary but fundamentally separate from the facility's primary mission. The invisibility was deliberate, cultivated through 18 months of careful behavior designed to ensure that he could perform his duties without creating complications for personnel whose attention needed to remain focused on operations that protected American interests worldwide. Jimmy had mastered the art of being present without being noticed, efficient without being memorable, and professional without inviting the kind of personal curiosity that might lead to questions about his background or previous experience. But invisibility, however carefully maintained, could be shattered by moments of recognition that transcended the careful boundaries between different worlds of military service and civilian support, between current assignments and previous achievements, between the roles people played and the histories they carried beneath uniforms that marked their current status rather than their complete service to their country. The moment that would transform everyone's understanding of who Jimmy Rodriguez actually was occurred during the third week of December, when Commander Patricia Hayes arrived at the facility for an unscheduled inspection that required her to review security protocols, personnel procedures, and facility maintenance standards that ensured SEAL headquarters met the stringent requirements for handling classified information and supporting sensitive operations. Commander Hayes possessed the kind of military experience that enabled her to recognize details that escaped less experienced personnel, subtle indicators of training, bearing, and capability that revealed themselves to those who understood what to look for when assessing individuals whose current assignments might not reflect their complete military background or operational experience. Her inspection routine included systematic review of all personnel who had access to classified areas, from senior operators to support staff, whose security clearances enabled them to function in environments where casual observation could compromise national security or endanger American lives in hostile territory. Jimmy was conducting his normal maintenance duties in the main briefing room when Commander Hayes encountered him during her late-night inspection of facility security and personnel protocols. Their interaction should have been routine, a brief acknowledgement between a senior officer and civilian maintenance personnel whose paths occasionally crossed during the execution of their respective duties. But as Jimmy straightened from emptying a waste container and turned to acknowledge Commander Hayes with the respectful greeting that protocol required, something caught her attention that transformed a routine encounter into a moment of recognition that would redefine how everyone at the facility understood the man they had been dismissing as invisible support personnel. Beneath Jimmy's civilian work shirt, barely visible through the fabric but unmistakable to someone with Commander Hayes's experience recognizing military decorations, was the distinctive ribbon pattern that corresponded to one of America's highest military honors, the Medal of Valor, awarded to personnel who had demonstrated exceptional courage under enemy fire while saving American lives at extreme personal risk. The mop that Jimmy had been holding clattered to the floor as he realized that Commander Hayes had recognized the metal ribbon that he had worn every day for 18 months, but had assumed would remain invisible beneath civilian clothes that marked his current status as maintenance personnel rather than revealing his previous service as someone who had earned recognition that placed him among America's most decorated military personnel. Commander Hayes stood frozen, processing the implications of what she was observing while trying to reconcile the humble custodian she had been prepared to briefly acknowledge with the reality that she was facing someone whose military service included actions that had earned recognition reserved for the most exceptional demonstrations of courage and sacrifice under combat conditions. "Sir," Jimmy said quietly, his voice carrying the military bearing that 18 months of deliberate civilian behavior hadn't entirely erased. "I can explain the situation if protocols require clarification about personnel background verification and security clearance documentation." Commander Hayes's response reflected her understanding that she was no longer interacting with civilian maintenance personnel, but rather with someone whose military service had included achievements that commanded respect from personnel regardless of their current assignment or apparent status within facility hierarchy. "What's your name and previous military service?" Commander Hayes asked with the professional courtesy that senior officers extended to decorated personnel whose achievements transcended current duty assignments and administrative categories. "James Rodriguez, Master Sergeant, United States Army, retired," Jimmy replied, while maintaining the respectful bearing that characterized military interactions between personnel of different ranks and service backgrounds. Medal of Valor awarded for actions during Operation Enduring Freedom, Afghanistan, 2018. Commander Hayes understood that she was facing someone whose military background included service in combat zones where American forces faced some of the most dangerous and challenging operational conditions in modern warfare. and whose individual actions had been significant enough to warrant recognition through medals that were awarded sparingly and only after extensive verification of extraordinary courage under enemy fire. Master Sergeant Rodriguez. Commander Hayes said with the recognition that exceptional military service commanded regardless of current civilian employment status. What were the circumstances that led to your Medal of Valor citation? Jimmy's response revealed military service that none of the facility personnel had suspected during his 18 months of maintaining their headquarters with quiet efficiency and deliberate invisibility. Commander, the medal was awarded for actions during a medical evacuation operation where enemy forces had disabled helicopter extraction for wounded personnel in a combat zone. Jimmy explained with the clinical precision that characterized military debriefing procedures. The operation required individual infiltration into hostile territory to establish security for medical personnel and ensure successful evacuation of casualties under sustained enemy fire. Commander Hayes realized that Jimmy's military background included exactly the kind of high-risk operations that SEAL personnel conducted regularly, and that his tactical experience and proven courage under combat conditions had been evaluated and recognized through awards that placed him among personnel whose individual actions had strategic significance for American military operations. Over the following conversation, Jimmy's complete military service was revealed through his willingness to discuss operational experience that had previously been classified at levels preventing detailed explanation to personnel lacking appropriate security clearances and operational need-to-know requirements. He had served as a Special Forces medical sergeant with Army units conducting operations in denied territory where conventional medical evacuation wasn't possible and individual personnel needed capabilities that enabled them to function independently under conditions that challenged normal tactical support procedures and medical protocols. His Medal of Valor had been earned during an operation where hostile forces had trapped American medical personnel with wounded soldiers who required immediate evacuation to prevent fatalities. Jimmy had conducted solo infiltration into enemy-controlled territory, established security that enabled helicopter extraction, and provided tactical coordination that ensured successful mission completion despite sustained enemy attempts to prevent American personnel from reaching safety. The medal represented recognition for individual courage that had saved multiple American lives through actions that exceeded normal duty requirements and demonstrated the kind of exceptional character that military leadership recognized through awards reserved for personnel whose individual contributions had strategic importance for American operations worldwide. Commander Hayes' assessment of Jimmy was completely transformed by understanding his actual military background and the recognition he had earned through actions that exemplified the highest traditions of American military service under the most challenging and dangerous operational conditions. The revelation had immediate implications for facility operations and personnel utilization, as Jimmy's tactical experience and proven capabilities under combat conditions represented resources that could enhance security procedures, training programs, and operational effectiveness through integration of his specialized knowledge and battlefield experience. Master Sergeant Rodriguez. Commander Hayes said with professional respect that acknowledged his decorated military service and potential contributions to facility effectiveness. Would you be interested in transitioning from civilian maintenance duties to security and training responsibilities that would better utilize your operational experience and tactical expertise? Jimmy's response reflected the same commitment to service that had characterized his military career and his 18 months of maintaining SEAL headquarters with professional excellence despite being systematically underutilized by personnel who hadn't recognized his actual qualifications and potential contributions. Commander Hayes, I would be honored to serve in whatever capacity would best contribute to facility effectiveness and support SEAL operations. Jimmy replied with the dedication that had earned him recognition as one of America's most decorated military personnel. The transformation was immediate and comprehensive. Jimmy transitioned from night shift custodian to senior security advisor, with responsibilities that included facility protection, personnel training, and operational consultation that utilized his combat experience and tactical expertise to enhance SEAL headquarters effectiveness. His specialized knowledge of infiltration techniques, medical evacuation procedures, and individual tactical operations provided training opportunities that exceeded what was available through conventional military instruction programs, enhancing the capabilities of personnel who had been dismissing him as invisible maintenance staff. The SEAL operators who had been acknowledging Jimmy with polite nods during his custodial duties found themselves receiving tactical instruction from someone whose combat experience and proven courage had earned recognition that exceeded most military personnel regardless of their current assignments or operational backgrounds. His transition became a catalyst for enhanced personnel utilization policies that ensured military facilities properly assessed the backgrounds and capabilities of all personnel, regardless of their current assignments or apparent status within organizational hierarchies. The Medal of Valor that had been hidden beneath civilian work clothes became a symbol of how exceptional service and proven courage could be overlooked when personnel were categorized based on current duties rather than complete military experience and potential contributions to operational effectiveness. Years later, the incident was remembered as a turning point for personnel assessment procedures that ensured military facilities utilized all available talent and experience rather than allowing decorated veterans to remain underutilized due to administrative categories that didn't reflect actual qualifications and potential contributions. Jimmy's story became legendary throughout military facilities as an example of how heroes often served in roles that didn't reveal their complete backgrounds, and how recognition of exceptional service required looking beyond current assignments to understand the full extent of what individuals could contribute to military effectiveness and operational success. The mop that had clattered to the floor when Commander Hayes recognized his Medal of Valor ribbon became a reminder that true service took many forms, and that the most valuable personnel were often those whose modesty and dedication led them to contribute wherever they were needed rather than seeking positions that reflected their individual achievements and decorated military service. Master Sergeant James Rodriguez's transformation from invisible custodian to respected tactical advisor proved that heroism often chose humility over recognition, and that the most exceptional military personnel were frequently those who served with quiet excellence regardless of whether their contributions were acknowledged or their achievements were recognized by those who benefited from their dedication and expertise. Before we conclude this incredible story, here's our question. Have you ever encountered someone whose current role completely concealed their extraordinary background and achievements? Have you witnessed moments where people's true capabilities and service were hidden behind humble appearances and modest positions? Tell us in the comments about the times when you realize that heroes often walk among us unrecognized, choosing service over recognition and contribution over acclaim. And if you believe that true honor lies in serving wherever you're needed rather than seeking positions that reflect your achievements, hit that subscribe button to support our channel. Every story reminds us that the most decorated heroes are often those who choose humility over recognition, and that exceptional service can be found in the most unexpected places when we take time to truly see the people around us. We'll see you in the next story where we'll discover another incredible tale of hidden service and the transformative power of recognizing that heroism comes in many forms, often concealed behind the modest dedication of those who serve without seeking recognition or acclaim.